When there's an injustice against you or someone you love or someone you believe in, stand up. Don't sit down on them. They need you.
Welcome to Pop Culture Justice here on Popcorn Planet. I am Andy Signore. I'm so excited to be here with Louis Lecca of Nerd Report. Welcome, my man. How you doing, Louis?
Man, hey, I'm always happy to be here with the Popcorn Planet community, but of course we're covering some serious topics once in a while, and we gotta do what we gotta do, you know, want to inform the people and everything. But yeah, I'm doing great. Thank you for having me on.
Well, I want to go through, I know this has sort of been, people are starting to already discuss, but I wanted to break through this affidavit that came through and really paints a picture of what's going on. Now, we're going to go through it all in a little bit more in depth, but I wanted to sort of take a step back for those of you who just want the recap of things. There are some key takeaways that others have been reporting, and I agree. I've gone through a scan. I know Louis has gone through it in full last night, and we'll go through with you here live in the full show. But I want to go through some sort of the highlights and takeaways of things that I found rather surprising. And I want to also sort of start with one of the family's fathers who came out and spoke, I guess, to News Nation last night, with Bryan sharing this clip. And I just think this is the angle of the story that we all need to remember as we get so lost in true crime here. Listen to what the father, this was the father of Kaylee, says.
These officers they just did an amazing job. And I was hard on them, and I'll come out and say that I owe them all the gratitude in the world, and I've always supported the police. But it's the school of thought that I come from. Like, everybody can do their best, and they need to come to the every day trying to be the best person that they can possibly be. So I won't back off of that, but these guys did an amazing job. They need more credit than they had. I mean, people think Idaho is so old-fashioned and out back, but these guys, they hit a home run, man. That affidavit is impressive, and I'm glad to be wrong. I wanted to be wrong, and I told them to their face. I looked them in their eyes and said, prove me wrong, and all is forgiven. And here we are, and all is forgiven. And I'll say that on camera, and I'll tell everybody, I was concerned, but I was wrong. They were right, and I'm okay with that. I have my person now. We have our person of interest, our defendant, and we will go after him, and he better be ready.
So, Louis, that sort of sums up, I think, something we don't always talk about, which is the fact that police sometimes do their jobs. We're very quick to assume and jump because we're not hearing things that we don't know what's actually going on. But in reading this morning and going through the report here, I mean, they knew what was going on. They had a lot more information than we did. And this suspect of Bryan, there's a lot of reasons why they have now charged him. Now, like I said, we'll go through it, and there are still some questions and things that we're going to address, but I want to give you sort of the quickest rundown. I mean, the biggest takeaway for me, it just clearly was the fact that obviously we knew about the car, right? We knew about the car, but we didn't really know about what was happening during it. And as sort of this is written by Brett Payne, one of the officers there to compile all this, walks through and talks about all the people, the victims, et cetera, that they've seen on there. But then they redact some things, really a lay of the land of what was happening. But then really big evidence sort of comes in the fact that they found what appeared to be a tan leather knife sheath laying on the bed next to Mogan's right side. The sheath was later processed and had a Kabar USMC United Marine Corps Eagle Globe and an anchor insignia stamped on the outside of it. Idaho State Lab later located a single source of male DNA, suspect profile left on the bottom button snap of the knife sheath. Now that's key. That's potentially right, the weapon. And then they talk specifically about the interviews with the people, and specifically BF, DM, the ones that were inside at the time, which I think most of us, Louis, are a little still confused. Right? Why didn't they call the 911 right away? There were questions and things that came about, but through their interviews through it, and I'll go through this in our full version of the show just because you guys can find this or read it yourself, and we'll go through it. But the summary of which, really lays out a lot of what we knew, where their appearances were, the food truck, etc. All this stuff that comes down. There was a DoorDash delivery around 4 a.m. So we know sort of it was after that, really helping to sort of pinpoint the times. They are also able to sort of check the cellular data to know that they were using TikTok in the middle of the night. Guys, if you don't know, they can track everything on your phone, all activity, when you're active, where it goes, what's going on. And they were able to use those resources here to attempt to get to the bottom of this pretty quickly. As they continue to go through, they hear noises. They hear one of them hears a male voice. It's okay. I'm going to help you. terrifying. There's the dog that was loud. There was some loud thuds as people were sort of walking around, as well as someone saying that they thought they heard someone in the house, that they weren't alone, was what was being told through the witnesses and what the people no longer hear. Something along the effect of there's someone here. At that point, they started looking around. There were some dogs. There were some noises. Opened the door the third time after hearing some crying and saw a figure clad in black clothing and a mask that covered the person's mouth and nose walking towards her. Described the figure as 5'10" or taller, male, not very muscular, but athletically built with bushy eyebrows, and that becomes a big point later. The male walked past DM as she stood in frozen shock phase. The male walked towards the back sliding glass door. DM locked herself in her room after seeing the male. DM did not state that she recognized the male. This leads investigators to believe that the person who did it left the scene. All these sort of things come together, as well as forensic video and other things lead to sort of find it between this period that it actually happened between 4 and 4:25 a.m. Now, that's a key point that they're going to use throughout the investigation as they go through it. Particularly, there's a shoe print that they mention here, as well as the video canvas. There were cameras, Lewis, which I didn't fully realize, especially one near the residence. And they were able to pinpoint, using all these surveillance cameras, this car, and this is a big one. The review talks about the Elantra, the white Elantra, etc., the paths that they were going, where it came from. And through all of this, they're able to go through and really dissect and figure out that this vehicle was a high suspect. They're able to then pinpoint the car. They locate, I'm scrolling through sort of all this stuff here, but correct me if I'm wrong here, Lewis, but I'm missing something. But they, fast forward, they deduce through their expertise the suspect's vehicle, and they said leaving the King Road residence at around 4:20 at a high rate of speed, and then next traveling to Walenta Drive. Now, all this is key because they then really go in and pinpoint the white Honda Elantra. They bring all that point with the registration, license plates, how that belonged to Bryan, then where that car has been and whatnot. The next really more interesting part to me was the phone records. So while they sort of pinpoint the location of the car, Bryan's car, at the scene around that time and at other times, and they're able to find his ID through, I guess it was a public stop that happened by an officer earlier that was registered. And because they found that Elantra registered to Bryan, they were able to find his ID. And that's when he became really suspect number one. And again, they noticed that his eyebrows on his ID had the bushy eyebrows, a physical description consistent with that of the male that DM saw inside the King Road residence. Now, more obviously doing this, they realize, well, let's go through and tap the phone. Once they've sort of deduced him as a major suspect, they get the warrant and they're able to deduce where the phone was. And they're using the pings, etc., to go through and figure out where this phone was. Before I get there, there's a little bit here about, yes, he was a PhD student, they knew, with criminology. His past education included psychology and cloud-based forensics. He applied for an internship with the Pullman Police Department in the fall, and he posted a Reddit survey, understand how emotions and psychological traits influence decision-making when committing a crime. Again, all really weird, creepy, chilling stuff that, again, innocent till proven guilty, right? But all pointing to someone with expertise in this, who clearly is almost Dexter-like in a way of sort of trying to get involved while also clearly doing something. So they obtained the search warrants to the cellular towers, and sort of the last real big point is the fact that they did not locate the cell tower at the time of the incident. Now, they say, based on experience with law enforcement, especially as this is typically, usual, because the suspect will leave their device somewhere else as a way of having an alibi, if you will. And what's interesting is they went and then pursued this further. They deduced that the phone was literally on at the residence and then shut off during the period and then activated again after the period, which, I'm sorry, Lewis, that's very, very sus. Once they had that deduced, they went and got an extended warrant to check the historical phone records, because traditionally someone like this would be stalking or, there more often. And they were able to find, I think it was like a dozen other incidents where he was near that historical site. So again, all this stuff sort of comes along with the evidence, the fact that he was there in their area multiple times after, weirdly shuts off and is awake and around, shuts off during that. His car is there during that. All this stuff really comes together and makes a point of like, this is not looking good for Bryan. They give some paths of sort of the distance of where they would have gone based on the cell phone records. So it's not just, a couple little things here. There's the vehicle ID, there's the cell phone verifying the vehicle ID. And then they went and verified Bryan getting out of the car at supermarkets and other things that also co-aligned with the cell phone data. So all this stuff really echoing and leaning on, more and more, not like as if anybody else could drive this car. Nobody else was doing this. They were able to sort of add more evidence to prove that this was his car. So all this comes through, and then eventually going through, they make a point here at Kate's Cup of Joe. They located him again, and then at a supermarket, they locate him again. All this goes through, and then at some point, they locate him, his family's residence in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania, and they were able to recover DNA from the trash of that residence. That was then able to create the DNA profile obtained from the trash can and from the sheath, and identified the male as not being excluded as the biological father of suspect profile. At least 99.998% of male population would be expected to be excluded from the possibility of being the suspect's biological father. So again, DNA evidence then connected the two, the cell phone service records, the car, all this comes together to not paint a very good picture for Bryan and making his defense incredibly difficult, in my opinion. Again, he has his day in court and we will see what happens, but pretty massive discovery and chilling details that this affidavit finally then gave us to why. And I want to echo what the survivor, the victim's father said. Kudos to the police. It really does seem like in this case, unlike, we got to talk about the laundry case, Northport, et cetera. In this case, it does seem like the officers were on top of it, and anybody who was frustrated or wondering what was happening, not only were they on top of it, but now we're getting this intel pretty damn quick. Lewis, this is a pretty nice thing to see. No, do you feel confident in what's happening in this affidavit? Does it reassure you that they are on top of this one?
Yeah, I do. And by the way, since some people actually, some people don't know, but an affidavit is a sworn statement. Is actually, and it could be brought up during the case, and this one in particular is written by a police officer. So it's pretty much witness accounts of what they saw while arriving on where the crime was committed. And they do have a big case, Andy. I do think they have the right person at this point, but it's all about proving your case without a reasonable doubt. And from what I'm hearing is Bryan does have a public representative, but she is very smart, and there's even a reports that he has private eyes trying to prove that he's innocent. He's the wrong person. So look, it's all about the jury. It's 12 people, correct? And they have to be convinced. There's no cameras. There's a gag order with whatever comes out of the court. So far, though, it does look like we have the right person. Now, in regards to the Gonzalez family, this is Kaylee Gonzalez's father and mother.
These officers just
this one,
yeah. You ran the interview. Props to them. Props to him. To me, right now, I don't know him personally, of course, but man, that's a real man. Admitting you're wrong, coming in strong, coming in tough for his kids. Wow, and them two with the interviews, holding each other, hugging each other, supporting each other as a couple. And through the hard times, both of them, after this, I hope their marriage is able to survive. This is awful what happened to them. They were blessed with a beautiful child taken away senselessly. It takes a real adult to admit you're wrong. He's admitting he's wrong. I believe him. He's very humble, and props to the police department.
Yeah, when you go through like something like that, I understand where he's coming from, but I do think as we've addressed here, Lewis, we got the true crime community in these cases can go wild, right? And it's easy to get hung up on this because it's a loss of life. It's a tragic loss of life, and everyone's so invested, and it's so easy for us to always point fingers at the police. But right now, I got to say, I applaud so far. This seems like pretty good evidence, pretty good breakdown, sworn affidavit from the police department to sort of sum up what the case is, and it'll be interesting to see what else comes out from Bryan's side. Now, that said, the takeaways, as just to if you're just joining us on the live, and we'll go through a bit more in detail in a minute before I clip this. But yeah, the big takeaways, DNA was found on a knife sheath at the crime scene, as well as the roommate seeing the figure dressed in black with the mask. The surveillance pointed to that white sedan. That's a key point. The white Elantra at the Pennsylvania home of Kohberger's parents, connecting the two. Suspect phone was used at least a dozen times near the residence. That's going to be a hard one for him to try to explain. You know what I mean, Lewis? Because there's a lot of defenses here, but why on earth were you at this house or near it a dozen times? I need to hear a good excuse here, because that's going to be a hard one, I think, for him to try to really justify. The fact that he applied for a police internship is just creepy if he's guilty, right? But they did bring some interesting questions here, and I don't know if you have any more, but 2 months after, a number of questions remain. It's not clear why the unharmed roommate did not immediately call 911 or why the roommates were spared. It's a fair question. Motive for the crime also remains a mystery. I mean, it could have just been a random person. Someone they slighted him in some other previous thing. We don't know yet. Police have said they're still looking for the weapon. Document released Thursday shed no light on whether Kohberger and had any other reason to be in the area at the time of the killings. So again, we'll see. Like I said, that'll be hard to explain, but maybe there is still. And why wasn't Kohberger arrested until more than 6 weeks after the victims were found? I mean, I think we did explain that. They were doing they got the DNA summary closer and then had to sort of secure and locate where he is. It does seem like they were monitoring him. Authorities have not said publicly whether he knew any of the victims. So again, some stuff we're still gonna have to figure out why and how. But I got to say, overall, it doesn't seem like he's not gonna have an easy time with this. But again, due process, innocent until proven guilty, always important, guys. We remind that. But yes, more and more that we're seeing is leading me to think they found a pretty good suspect here. Lewis, other thoughts?
Well, this could go on for a 10-hour show, Andy, to be honest with you. And I'm curious to see what the people in the comments think, but there's so many points here. I know people are dwelling on that. The roommate did not call 911, I believe, up to 6 hours after. It's easy to beat Monday morning quarterbacking. I would have done this. I would have taken on Bryan or whoever was a suspect at this point with one arm tied behind my back. It's easy to say that until you're in the situation. Now, in regards to the random, if it was random or not, if all this evidence is in fact true, if it is legit, I do not believe it's random. I believed it was very planned, because we're talking about a city or a town that is based on college students. All these college students have a similar profile. They're all low 20s, 2021. They all kind of look similar, they're all into the same thing. They're trying to graduate, get an education. But for some reason, Andy and Popcorn Planet community, he followed them, right? It was these four, or someone in particular in these four, that caught his eye, that he kept going after. Why? I don't believe this was random at all. Not when you start to pinpoint where the phone was. Because if it was random, he'd just drive to Idaho, park his car, first four party goers that look buzzed, do the deed and leave. But it was these four. Why? We may find out. We may not, but we may find out.
Yeah, again, there are still questions to ask, and there could still be more to this case, as we find. There could be reasons exactly why did he do it? Did someone help him do it? Like, there's a lot of questions that are out there that we got to be careful in our speculation, but I understand why some are. I do want to go through the full affidavit with you guys and ask some of those questions, and we will. If you want to watch the full show, if you're not watching live, if you're watching live, you get to do it already. But if you missed the live, hit the join button. You can always catch our full show replays to get all the information. But we do try to clip seam these to keep it a little bit more digestible for you on the replays. So thank you guys for watching on the replay. If you're watching live, don't go anywhere. We're not done. Make sure you also go subscribe to Louis Lecca over at Nerd Report. He's been covering this case in such great detail. Nice work, brother. Keep going over there and subscribing to Nerd Report if you haven't already. Past the 50,000 sub mark. Congrats to you. And stay tuned for more coverage of that on all of our channels and here on Popcorn Planet.